They're both ready to go into the ground, in addition to more brassicas, Clapton cauliflowers, winter kale, and Savoy cabbage, particularly tasty with roast beef, I always find, which are all waiting in my cold frame. But more on that next time, for I think that there are some gardening questions to answer before I sign off.
Yep, yes, we have. Well, thanks very much. That was a lot of interesting information there. One of the things that we've been asked about is when you have a small town garden, you don't have a great deal of space on the one hand, and also some difficulty in encouraging worms. Is there anything we could do for that?
Um, if you haven't got any worms in your garden, I would look at the soil because they love rich, nutritious soil, and they are a necessary friend as they aerate the soil. So you do need to look at that first. And if it's dry, barren, and lifeless, it's definitely in need of a good feed. I have some patches of my garden that have been like that when I took over my allotment, and I treat mine with a good layer of well-rotted manure, some compost, and even leaf mold if you have it. And do that in the autumn when I've dug over the ground at the end of the growing season. Um, on our allotment, we buy it in bulk from the local farmer, but if you've got a small garden, you can usually buy manure very cheaply from a local riding stables. You often see notices advertising it at the gate when you're driving around in the countryside, or even from a farm. And the bags only cost between 20 and 50 pence each. It's a good idea to take your own bag, mind you. But it does mean driving home with the windows open because it does smell a bit, but never mind, it's all in a good cause. But I then spread it and then add some compost and then, as I say, leaf mold if you have it. And then the autumn, which is a good time, it lets the rain soak into the nutrients over the winter. And so by next spring, your soil will be revitalized. And in digging it over, you should see some little juicy pink worms. But don't try to plant anything immediately you put the manure down, as it can burn the plants. Let it rot down early for spring planting. But keep up the nutrients in your soil as well. Organic products like blood, fish, and bone, or Grow Organic, which is a fibrous poultry manure, chicken pellets, which break down a bit more slowly, and hoof and horn are all organic and they're all readily available from garden centres. But be careful not to overdo it because you can over fertilise as well as under fertilise, and that can be just as bad. So always read what it says on the tin.
Does the homemade compost help? I asked that
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Yes,
we have a
yes.
bin in
Yeah,
it's
yeah. If you
a
have a
different kind.
compost bin, once it's
Yeah,
rotted down, yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah,
there's a different kind of worm in there, very small worms. And I've noticed wet
that's all
newspaper
right.
gives
Well, the
them.
birds love those, but a worm is a worm.
Yeah.
It's still going
Does,
to do good in the garden.
well, one of the things we've noticed ourselves, as well as another question, is ordering stuff online. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't get what you expected. And both on two occasions, people have had stuff which has either been useless or gone wilting before they get it. What can they do about that?
Well, the customer service line is always your best bet, first of all. But I know that at the moment it's quite difficult because the lines are busy, the staff are less, and I know that having discussed this problem with the person who made the observation, the company is a very well known one. They have a good reputation and they're an established supplier of quality goods. But they probably are overwhelmed, but this is no excuse for not answering or acknowledging your concern. And any horticultural made order specialist normally has a clause indicating that they'll either replace the items or give you a refund. And, that stands. I've experienced this guarantee being extended even where plants don't grow at all. And they've certainly replaced them. So it probably means putting pen to paper and using snail mail to get through to them, giving your order reference and everything, and just making a point. Don't give up because you do really need some kind of recompense.
Well, thanks very much for that, Susan. We've come to the end of our time, so we might return to that one a bit later on because we've had some problems with it. But thank you very much for that. It's back to Steve.
Yeah, thanks a lot
Okay,
for that, Susan. Thanks a lot.
it's okay.
And thank you for the dog as well.
Oh yeah.
having a little join in with us. Right, so Helena's second piece of music, I don't know why she chose this one, but a second piece is Jimmy Nail on this Night of 1,000 stars.
Now Eva Perón had every disadvantage you need if you're gonna succeed. No money, no cash, no father, no bright lights. There was nowhere she'd been at the age of 15. As this tango singer found out,
Agustín Magaldi,
who has the distinction of being the first man to be of use to Eva Duarte. On this night of 1,000 stars, let me take you to heaven's door, where the music of love's guitars plays forevermore. In the glow of those twinkling lights, we shall love through eternity. On this night in 1,000,000 nights, fly away with me. I never dreamed that a kiss could be as sweet as this, but now I know that it can. I used to wander alone without a love of my own. I was a desperate man. But all my grief disappeared, and all the sorrow I'd feared wasn't there anymore. On that magical day when you first came my way, mi amor. On this night, on this night, on this night of 1,000 stars, let me take you to heaven's door, where the music of love's guitars plays forevermore.
Right. Neil, we're welcoming Neil to the Neil Savin to the studio, or virtual.
Looks as though we've got some problems with bandwidth.
Are you having?
Staff, but all of it's really focused on therapeutic work. Those people who come to us with anxiety, depression, problems relating to other people. So generally, this particular last 6 months have really thrown up a lot of issues for everybody. All of us included. I mean, obviously, it's been quite good for me going to work. I've really enjoyed that side of things, the fact that we're actually working with colleagues and so on. But actually then, seeing people who are isolated by COVID, it's created quite a lot of issues in and of itself. But I suppose one must remember that what everybody brings to the the table is their pre-morbid issues. So it's not just the event itself; it's actually how people relate to it. So the sense of this being a disaster. For most people, there will be some people who actually have benefited, strangely enough, actually from the whole process. I can think of one particular individual who prior to the COVID spent a lot of time on their own, had a wee garden, kept themselves to themselves. But as a consequence of COVID, the neighbours have rallied round, and actually the other day they had a birthday party, socially distanced. But for them, actually, it's brought a change of relationships. However, it's almost as if the fence of the garden provides that barrier that previously was their own relationships with other people. They put up a barrier. Now they have a structural barrier to keep people away. So they manage their relationships through that. There'll be other people who find it really difficult to relate to. I suppose they've lost things like the walking club, for example, which provided them with a way of actually socializing and so on. So for them, that's been very difficult. Other people have had issues with their relations, with their families that may have been present beforehand. So each one of them, each one of us, brings a very different perspective to this event, and depending on the particular relationship and attachment issues that they had prior to lockdown, this will in and of itself be played out during this time. I'm sure you can think of particular examples yourself where so I suppose what I'm saying is that it's not exactly the isolation, maybe well actually what that means for that individual as a person, and actually how that's played out. So going into people's homes, which is we're obviously starting to do now, going into nursing homes, some people there have really struggled because actually they really have been isolated. It's been like a prison for them, and they've been stuck in their own room. That's all they've been seeing again and again. That's all they're seeing is the staff. They've lost contact with family, and it's only now in this last couple of weeks where actually eased up. So for some people, it's actually been really prison-like, whilst for others, those people who have gardens, for example, have been able to at least have a bit of fresh air and so on. So very much an individual reaction to the process.
So this presumably fits in with the work you would have done previously. Hello, yeah, can you hear me at all? Okay. I was going to ask you about the difference between the loneliness and the solitude of people. Are you with me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
So we all need human relationships, but we also need time to make sense of those relationships, and often we need time on our own to do that. Sometimes some of the people I've been seeing have actually in relationships with other people, which are very, very challenging. So this specter of abuse and so on, can be presenting. So there's some individuals who actually really want to be on their own, but there is no place for them in the house or in the and that is incredibly difficult.
Okay.
So,
Neil, I'm hoping to return to that subject, but we've come to that point at which you've chosen a piece of music for us to listen to. But when we come back after that, I'd like to talk to working on what you've just been talking about, the difference between the loneliness and solitude and the support that people give, how we can give to people who are now currently locked down, what kind of support we can give, what's the most effective support. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So what have you chosen for us as a piece of music?
The piece of music's What Kind of Music by a guy called Tom Misch.
Okay. And okay, we'll listen to this and you'll tell us why you've chosen that afterwards. Okay, thank you.
Right, we appear to be having a little bit of a problem getting the music on, but Neil, who is in charge of all this, not the Neil that Hugh's been talking to, but Neil is the station manager. There we go, and here it comes. Tom Mish.
What kind of music? Hey, I didn't make a sound. I was hidden amongst the crowd. Take another look around. I know that my mind will keep me down. In the corner of your eye, I'm a stranger you recognize. You go the way I go, your words follow me home. Can I make it clear? There's nothing to see here. The demons come and go. I know that with time they come around. Opened up a door. I came back for more. It's too late to look back. Forever got this time.
Well, thank you for that choice of music, Neil. I think you need to unmute, and then we can carry on with this conversation. That's okay? Hi, good. Okay, welcome back. An interesting choice of music. This a favorite of yours?
I think the bandwidth's gone down again.
Oh, okay. Well, shall we try and struggle through? But what I found very interesting when you were talking before, if you can hear this, is that it was people who had support were quite often the people who coped best with the loneliness or the solitude and so on. So now we have a fresh group of people who are locked down, who are unused to it. And what kind of, based on your experience, what kind of support can we give to neighbors, friends, or others? What's the best kind of support to help them through these times?
Well, obviously, as I said before, it's very much on an individual basis. What kind of relationship did you have pre-lockdown with these individuals, with these neighbours and so on? But I think checking out with people, just meeting them across the fence or whatever it happens to be, saying hello, smiling, just generally starting to begin a relationship. That has got to be the beginnings of something. Some people will love, the children coming round. Other people will not want that, and I think it really has got to be the building of a new relationship. I mean, I suppose in a sense, here we are with this opportunity, so let's make the most of it. We all came out on a Thursday in the clapping, and for example, that was a start of actually meeting and chatting with neighbours who we wouldn't otherwise have done. So I think this is a real opportunity, but it only begins with those first tentative steps that otherwise people may feel flooded, may feel overwhelmed by this idea and actually retreat back into that. But the phone call, the knock on the door, whether just
okay, yeah, no, that's very good. That's helpful, and I also take on board your point about the possibility of people being overwhelmed. Before we had the music, you were saying that you're starting to be able to go into care homes again.
That's right, yes.
And I was speaking to somebody who had that experience of a relative in care home and said that in spite of the fact that they're actually surrounded by people, they were more lonely than they'd ever been in their life. How are you finding it when you get into the care homes?
I'm sorry, Hugh, I didn't catch that last question.
I'm just asking
sorry,
what your experience has been once you've actually got into care homes. How have people coped with, in fact, the loneliness for many people in care homes?
Well, no, indeed. I think what we've tried to do is for those people who we were seeing either before or who we've been asked to see during it, we've tended to, let's start with telephone calls. So in a sense, there's a preparation before before we've gone face to face, which has been great. It's been a bit of a survival thing for keeping people going, regular contact on a weekly basis. It is strange going into a care home, particularly if you're wearing PPE, as we're required to. So there's that balance there. So here's a rather alien environment and an alien. You look strange, but the fact that you can, even with the mask on, you can smile. People will see your face. What they can of it, and that in itself is good. So there's a start and the beginnings of a connection. It's been very difficult. Some nursing homes I know are starting to put up kind of gazebos and so on, so people can speak outside with friends and relatives and clinicians and so on. So again, it's a gradual process of getting to know someone, sometimes for the first time, or redeveloping a relationship. Some of the people that I've been seeing in care homes, for example, had quite strong religious beliefs beforehand. So for them, this has been an opportunity to have their faith tested, etc. For those people who have secular beliefs, it's been very much about the kind of important relationships, whether they've actually had, whether there's been any, for example, cognitive impairment or whatever, those, as well as their physical health problems, have just compounded the difficulties, that sense of isolation because of maybe hearing or speech difficulties or whatever, that sense of being able to communicate. So what we've been doing is basically, again, just taking our time and building up those relationships and seeing actually how we can supplement our individual contact with them through working with the staff, supporting the staff who are also quite stressed and kind of challenged by the situation. So I would see my role as actually facilitating both the individual relationships, but at the same time facilitating the way in which this individual is seen by the staff in the nursing home, who've done a heroic piece of work to actually, sustain.
No, that's been very helpful. Can I just ask one very quick question, which is, did you feel you were adequately resourced beforehand? And will there be a need for more resources of the kind of help that you give in the immediate future, post lockdown?
Post-COVID. I think we have been reasonably well resourced. This is not a party line, but I think we've had the support as teams and as a trust to actually do what we needed to do. And yes, I'm very happy, and we have enough to work on at the moment. But we will need some changes in the way things are being delivered in the future. There'll be more
Neil,
video.
I'm going to have to bring this to a close, but that's been fantastically
sorry.
useful and interesting and helpful, and actually quite encouraging for the future. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing in the past, and thank you for coming and talking to us about it. Okay.
Not
Thank
a
you
problem.
very much.
Thank you, Hugh. Thanks very much.
Yes, thanks a lot for that. Well, you're listening to Older Voices, the twice monthly radio programme of the Elders Council of Newcastle. We broadcast between 2 and 4 in the afternoon of the first and third Friday of every month. During lockdown, we broadcast via Zoom on 102.5 FM, and our host station is Nova Radio Northeast. We're the Elders Council. You're listening to Older Voices. Right, Hugh, we've got Sandy now coming into, well, not into the studio. He's in the room and he's ready now for you to talk to him about green issues.
Okay, well, welcome, Sandy.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Sandy, on the last time that we were talking, you, just as we were coming to the end of our talk, you raised a very interesting topic, which was this idea of a sixth extinction, that this is one in which biodiversity is being lost. And you said that the scale at which this species are being wiped out is colossal, and that one species, us, mankind, is responsible. Why does this matter? What are the consequences of the loss of plants and animals?
Well, there's a huge range of very negative consequences, but given the theme of the show, perhaps we ought to focus on the current pandemic might illuminate the general problem. Is that okay?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, we're good.
I'm going to look on that particular theme, and there are many more dimensions. There are two major negatives, also a very significant plus. The negative is that the root cause both of wildlife and of an danger of pandemics is the encroachment on the habitats of wild creatures. In other words, we've done two things. We've set in motion a mass extinction episode. Time we're finding out that were harbored by what were immune animal hosts, but those pathogens are now spreading to people, and that's the root cause of not just COVID, but of Ebola, Lassa fever, SARS, West Nile virus, bird flu, and there are widespread predictions that this is first of more to come. So there are two sides to that coin: destroying wildlife habitats, but also increasing the incidence of pandemics. But then there's another dimension, that in the process, the forces that are driving the extinction crisis are making people less healthy. And if they're less healthy, they're less resilient. And if they're less resilient, they're more vulnerable to pandemics. The most obvious example is what is a colossally healthy system. It's destroying wildlife habitats. It's the main cause of that destruction. But it's producing unhealthy food in unhealthy conditions. I'm thinking of factory farm units. I'm thinking of animal market, thinking of the bushmeat trade, I'm thinking of meat processing plants. I think people will be aware that in Germany, which has been very successful as a country, is actually facing new problems, and the origin is a food processing plant, and that's very common in the United States.
Sandy,
Yes.
Sandy, I'm terribly sorry, and I apologise to the listeners as well, but I'm afraid that you keep on, we keep on missing bits of what you're saying. I'm afraid the sound quality has got so bad that I'm going to have to say thank you so much for coming on, but we're going to have to leave you, I'm afraid.
Well, I think they're digging outside for the new cabling, and I'm just wondering. I'm wondering. Thanks.
Okay. Well, Sandy, if I can just sort of wrap this up. What I think we need to come back to this sort of thing. I've been reading up on your, following up from your thing and talking about this sixth extinction. And it is clearly a sort of massive problem. What I would have liked to have been able to ask from you, but I haven't been able to find out yet, is what is the current loss of species? I saw some things for the loss of vertebrates, but in the last 100 years, but I haven't been. And the other sort of thing, that the scale of the problem was brought home to me by one of the reports saying that it depends on whether you take a very conservative or a less than conservative view, but that the rate of the loss of species, as compared with what would normally be happening, because species do die and they do fall back, it's at a minimum of 800 times the rate that you would expect from the normal, and possibly up to 10,000 times the rate you would expect. So I've wondered, but haven't been able to find how far that has gone. But it's a fascinating subject to return to. Very difficult to see how we're going to stop about it. And the one last point that again was quite striking in reading about this was that it's not just the loss of the species, but it's that prior to the loss of the species, the numbers of them have diminished so much anyway, that even if they're not actually lost or they're just kept in zoos, the benefits that we would have derived from them are already lost. So can we, hopefully with better sound quality, we'll return to this topic next week?
Yes, next week, please. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Not next week. Sorry, I didn't mean next week, did I? I meant on the 17th of July, in a fortnight's time. So
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. And
Thank you, Sandy.
thanks a lot, Hugh. Thanks, Sandy. Right, it's Helena's next piece of music now, and appropriately, just before the notices come on, she's chosen I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
I bet you're wondering how I knew I chose plans to make me blue with some other guy.
Right, I heard it through the grapevine, which means that it's time, of course, for the notices. And who is reading them? Well, it's the usual. It's Eunice and Anne. And what have you got for us today, you two?
Hello, everybody. Today we've got our first lot of notices. We're told to wear face masks on public transport. But what if you have a medical condition that means you can't wear a mask?
Well, Nexus has created a card that you can now show to the Metro inspector or the bus driver, which exempts you from the requirement to wear a mask.
You can download the card from the Nexus website at www.nexus.org.uk/journey-assistance-cards. You can print it out or download it to your phone.
Nexus make these cards available on a trust basis, and you're asked not to misuse them for purposes other than medical need, and anyway, their use will be regularly monitored.
Now for something about ourselves.
Yes, because Older Voices has joined a cooperative called the Later Life Audio and Radio Cooperative, as LLARC. And on Wednesday, the 8th of July, from 12 noon to 2 p.m., there's going to be a webinar to explain what the organisation is all about.
The session is run by the Centre for Ageing Research at Swansea University. If you're interested in listening, please ring Steve on 0191 273 4727 or email him at steve.whitley@phoneecoop.coop.
Now for something not so pleasant, scams.
Yes, Northumberland Police have told us that there's been an increase in the number of bogus callers in the region. Unscrupulous people have been taking advantage of the current situation to try to lure you into giving them your money.
Remember, if something sounds too good to be true, well, usually it is.
A good place to go to if you want to know what new scams are being perpetrated is www.which.co.uk/scam alerts.
Are you looking for new recipes to help you out of the kitchen? Then why not join the virtual lunch club?
Open to vegetarians and would-be vegetarians, aged 65 and over. The lunch club is held on the second and fourth Tuesday each month at 1 p.m. The recipes are provided a week in advance for you to cook on the day, then join on Zoom to enjoy it.
For more information and to book a place, ring Ellie on 0161 257 0887 or email her at ellie@vegetarianforlife.org.uk.
That's it for now. We'll be back later in the programme.
Well, actually, Anne, you'll be back now because we've got a story, haven't we? We've got a story written by Ray again, but you'll be reading it, and it's called Months of Joy.
Months of Joy, although I don't know how joyous it's going to be. It's a little bit different.
Well, let's just see, shall we? Off you go then.
Months of Joy, March, April, May and June 2020. People would normally have experienced months of out and about, but not this year. Little gremlins in the name of COVID-19 have invaded our planet. Are these from the planets of Destructor or Terminator? The lockdowns throughout the world have caused disruption everywhere, including the freak weather at times. Plants are fully confused, performing out of season. The birds are a little disoriented. Who can guess what will happen next? Staged openings of shops and pubs are having some good effect. But some people are totally ignorant to the simple rules of health and safety, putting everyone at risk, including those who take the necessary precautions. If they do catch the virus, then everybody will be to blame but themselves. Classic case of ignorance is a disaster for their family and friends who will be carrying the loss for the rest of their lives. The television every day shows disasters waiting to happen, demonstrations without spacing or masks shouting their heads off, followed by destruction of monuments in a fit of temper because they may never achieve anything themselves. Everyone in the world and every country is facing real hardship. Wrecking factories or shops means fewer places for employment, which is of no help to anyone. People who create the business are the archivers, creating employment for the others. Some achieve pedestal status by creating thousands of jobs all over the world. Think of this, all those employed, it is the entrepreneurs who have put food in their bellies, and otherwise they would have starved. It's the overall picture that matters. The latest trend is illegal raves in empty houses, shops, factories, etc., with pubs closed and the world spilling over with high energy people and nowhere to go to let off steam. They just want to shout and sing and no doubt experiment with drugs the way we did with cigarettes and the odd nip of spirits. When I was young, there were dance halls and youth clubs everywhere to go and meet friends and others. Thankfully it was so. Comparing rave for dance, surely it would be better to organise legal meetings where they can be controlled fairly while having their own good time, rather than having to go underground. Having lived for many decades of football's ups and downs, the Liverpool Football Club celebrations is understandable. Fans of all football clubs will naturally want to celebrate their club's success. It would have been safer to open up the hallowed ground for the fans to have a dancing celebration around the perimeter and shout and cheer themselves hoarse, rather than create disarray in the city. Considering loyal fans of clubs cover age ranges from children to into their 90s, a lifetime of ups and downs, of good times and bad times, the rain, hail or sunshine, both home and away. When they have success, the whole town celebrates, including a parade and an open top bus, so everyone can admire their heroes. That puts the value of a good football club plus money off the pitch to do good work within the community, including visiting hospitals and taking presents for sick children. At the moment, it is the professors who have the responsibility of deciding what is best for the nation. Would you like to be in their shoes and carry that responsibility? That is why social distancing is so important to stop the virus now, to give everyone a future to look forward to.
Right, thank you very much indeed for that, Anne. That was great. And of course, Eunice, having just read the notices, is about to appear again because she's got her first thoughts on July. Off you go, Eunice. Tell us what they are.
Hello, I hope you're all keeping well as the lockdown rules begin to relax and we're able to have socially distant cups of tea in our gardens with friends. I have, like most other people who carefully followed the government's rules over the past few months, been very disappointed to see the images of large crowds on beaches and the litter and mess they left behind, and some football fans letting their club down with their unruly and idiotic behaviour. I only hope that lockdown doesn't have to be enforced again due to such behaviour causing a new rise in the COVID-19 cases. I know that many people have had holidays cancelled due to the pandemic, and this has been a very difficult time for hotels, campsites, seaside resorts, travel agents and the airline industry. Coronavirus has certainly taken its toll in the number of lives lost, but also in the number of lives affected by this horrible virus. Life wasn't easy when I was young. There were no holidays when I was a child. My parents ran a shop which was open for very long hours. When we finally did start having holidays when my children were young, our favourite place was for a week away on Holy Island, or Lindisfarne as it's sometimes known. A beautiful place, cut up by the tide for hours each day, peaceful and unspoilt, with no amusement, slot machines, or fairground rides, with plenty of bird song, sea, sand, and often sunshine, and a couple of pubs for a sing-song and a drink in the evenings. We'd take along our old Boxwood Brownie camera, and we still have the holiday snaps from those days. Now, as the fast food and drive-through coffee outlets, photographs are instant, taken on iPhone or iPad, and distributed to dozens, in fact, sometimes hundreds of friends on social media. But I mustn't knock technology as it has lately proved to be a godsend of people working from home or able to Zoom or FaceTime family and friends so they don't feel quite so alone and isolated. One of my grandsons has even been editing Blue Peters from his son's bedroom. It's amazing what people have managed to do during lockdown. It seems that the roads are almost as busy as they were before the 20th of March. Although using public transport has been discouraged, people are using their cars to get to work. I wonder if many people have started cycling to work, as the government were trying to encourage this as a way to keep the cars off the road. The levels of air pollution were certainly reduced for a few months, and the birds could be heard singing without the competition from traffic noise. I've been hearing how our shops have changed over the past few months, with perspex shields between checkout staff and customers, hand sanitizer at the shop entrance, people cleaning your trolleys as you enter the store, while more and more people in protective masks, and in some shops, even one-way systems. Well, my normality has become stay at home. I'm actually quite used to that now. Two of my great-grandchildren went back to school on the 22nd of June. My grandson and his wife have key worker status, so they managed to work from home and keep the children with them at the start of the lockdown through April and May and most of June. But now the children have enjoyed the return to school and the interaction with others. It would seem that most people's lives have changed and everyone's version of normal is different. How has your life changed since the 20th of March? I wonder. Have some of you have kept lockdown diaries? Let us know if you've been doing that. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Right. The next piece of music is Lang Lang with La Campanella. Right, a virtuoso performance there from Lang Lang playing La Campanella. Now, Anne comes back after reading the notices and then the story. She's got quite a big slot this afternoon, and she's talking with Jude Murphy. Anne, who's Jude Murphy then?
Well, I'm not quite sure. I have spoken to her, but she's to do with arranging choirs. Oh, hello, Jude.
Hello. Hi.
Can you tell us about your role? We've heard you have a lot to do with choirs.
Yeah.
What is your role at the beginning, and then how did you get into the choir?
That's fine. Well, I mean, I've been many things over the years, far too many. And I presently work for the Workers' Educational Association, where I'm working with the Elders Council on a project called Active Voices as well. But what I'm talking about today is I run Come and Sing, which is a community choir. We've got an emphasis on fun and participation. We're not big on, we do perform, but mostly it's a very relaxed group where we just enjoy singing together. And we've been going now for over 8 years, and I'm proud to call the participants my friends. We started off as part of Newcastle City Learning's Love to Learn programme. We were based at Gosforth High School at the time, and there was only a handful of us. And the whole identity of the group evolved from that. We ended up going to Gosforth Library after that. And then when we left City Learning to be an independent group, we had a couple of years of being quite itinerant, sort of going into upstairs pubs around about the Gosforth area, upstairs rooms of pubs around the Gosforth area, just trying to find somewhere that felt like home. And we didn't find one until we got to Gosforth Garden Village Association, which is a lovely sort of, it's basically a little hall attached to a bowling pavilion. It's got the most lovely acoustic. And as soon as we went there, we realised, for a start, our harmonies were far better because we could hear each other really well.
Yes,
so now every Thursday, every week during term time, except at the moment, obviously, because of coronavirus. But,
yes. Well, how are you coping with the coronavirus on you?
Well, it's been a challenge. From very much the first week of lockdown, we decided we were going to keep going. We were going to do it by Zoom, by video calls. And that's all well and good, but these calls on the internet, obviously they have an inherent latency. It means that you can be singing together in what feels like perfect time, but it's not transmitted that way. It just goes bang, 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 bang. Everybody's coming in at slightly different times.
Yes.
So we've realised very quickly that the idea of us singing together live as a choir would be impossible. And at first I thought there might be ways around this, but then I checked out Gareth Malone, and I realised even with all the resources and knowledge that the BBC could throw at it, they couldn't get around it. So we knew we had to think of a different way of doing this. So we decided first we'd try everybody singing while I mute them on the video call, so all they would hear was their own voice and mine. Now that's great if you're learning a melody line or an individual harmony line, but it doesn't feel very choral when you put everything else together. So I started making these little multi-track videos of myself, and I uploaded these to YouTube, and I played these during our sessions. So the group has something to sing along with that sounds like the choir, and where they can hear me singing in all the different lines. So that keeps them going.
That sounds very interesting, Nick, because I like singing myself. It's one of the reasons I like to go to church to sing. But of course, now you can't, even when the churches stop opening again and have services, you're not allowed to sing because of the breath,
Yes.
coming out. So how is that going to transfer to a choir? How that'll be hard to get started again, won't it?
It will be. Even outdoors, we've been told that the 2 metre distance doesn't really apply to people singing out nice and powerfully, because obviously the aerosol effect it transmits further. So we're waiting for scientific guidance on that. I mean, I've heard rumours of people having to be 9 metres apart.
Oh dear me! Yeah,
You can imagine what effect that will have on coherence. So for the time being, I think where we are is online, unfortunately. There's a possibility, some choirs like Gareth Malone's and some local choirs as well have been putting together little collaborative videos where people have recorded themselves on their smartphone, and the choir leader sort of knits them all together into one performance. We're intending to do one of these at some stage, but it's a question of everybody feeling ready.
Right. Yes. It's I just find it all a bit difficult to take in that, because singing is good. It's good for the mind, isn't it? I mean, going on about people being depressed and everything, but singing, if you can sing, it makes you feel better, makes you feel joyful.
Definitely. I mean, the positive effects are massive. I mean, not just psychologically, and I think that's massive at the moment, but it's also things like, your breathing, and especially when you've got a respiratory disease like coronavirus going around, all the breath control helps. Posture, and just energy levels generally. I mean, sometimes I've gone into those choir sessions after a tiring day, and I'm absolutely exhausted when I go in, and even leading the sessions, I come out full of energy, wanting to do more, So I think it is massively positive.
Well, we'll have to leave that for the minute. And could you tell me about your piece of music you've chosen, please?
Yes, well, this choice of music is something that we are doing as an arrangement at the moment. It's Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. And obviously the message was right for lockdown anyway, but we brought it in the week where we were told that we had to stay alert, and it evidently didn't matter if we travelled to Barnard Castle. So somehow it really felt like we should sing this song right at that moment, because, like, let's face it, you might as well not worry and be happy in those circumstances.
Well, that's true. Well, I think their song's coming on now. And
okay.
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy. In every life we have some trouble, but when you worry you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Ain't got no place to lay your head. Somebody came and took your bed. Don't worry, be happy. The landlord say your rent is late. He may have to litigate. Don't worry, be happy. Look at me, I'm happy. Don't worry, be happy. I give you my phone number. When you worry, call me. I make you happy. Don't worry, be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no style, ain't got no gal to make you smile. But don't worry, be happy. 'Cause when you worry, your face will frown, and that will bring everybody down. So don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Now there is this song I wrote. I hope you learned it note for note like good little children. Don't worry, be happy. Listen to what I say. In your life, expect some trouble. When you worry, you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Be happy now. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, don't do it. Be happy. Put a smile on your face. Don't bring everybody down like this. Don't worry. It will soon pass, whatever it is. Don't worry, be happy.
Right, that was very cheerful.
Yeah,
Been a
it's
little
not all
bit of a
sunshine,
somber-
isn't it?
Yes, it's been a little bit of a somber afternoon, so that was everybody was sort of joining in with a bit of hand waving and whatever there.
That's it, yeah. Well,
Yes.
that's one of the rules in Come and Sing, is that if you can move, you must.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do people get in touch if they want to join the group?
The best thing I would say is to have a look at either our website or the Facebook page.
Right.
The website address is just comeandsing@gosforth.com.
Oh,
So
right.
that's all one word, comeandsing@gosforth.com.
And sing@gosforth.com.
And the Facebook page is Come and Sing Newcastle. And again, that's all
Come
one
and
word.
Sing Newcastle.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if you send me a message either via the website or via the Facebook group, then I can send you the Zoom invite and everything. And
Yes.
it's a lovely, friendly group. I think people really, really enjoy it. It's the repertoire, by the way, is very wide ranging. We do pop tunes like that, but we also do madrigals sometimes. A lot of world music, a lot of folk, a lot of country, and it's arrived at democratically. So if you've got a burning issue that you want to sing about, we'll find a song and we'll arrange it.
Yes. Well, how do you done a session for the Elders Council in the Granger Market little while back, didn't you? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. Yes, it was absolutely brilliant. It was part of. Now, I better mention that the Active Voices project that this was part of, the Voices part of that is meaning actually people raising their voices to campaign about something or to make their voices heard in their communities. It's not actually. It wasn't strictly a singing project, but in this case, we knew that Older People's Day was coming up, and we wanted to make some noise for Older People's Day. So we ran what was basically a songwriting and banner making workshop in the dementia friendly unit at the Granger Market over the course of a few weeks. And the group came up with some fantastic songs, one of which we recorded on this radio show, actually. It was All That Older People's Jazz. It was a rewrite of the lyric to that. And at the end of it, we had lots of great lyrics. And we marched through town on Older People's Day, through the Central Arcade, stood at the monument and sang. Placards at the ready. We had Bill Grundy there. He was joining in with great gusto. We certainly did make some noise for Older People's Day. And I mean, some of the lyrics were fantastic. They were all busting myths about how being older means being less active, and they were absolutely brilliant. And it was an absolute privilege to be part of it. A lot of members of the Elders Council were involved in it, some from U3A, some from the Workers' Educational Association, some people who just sort of walked past the unit in the Granger Market and went, "Can we join in?" Yeah.
Just joining in. That's how you do with things sometimes. You hear the music, as I used to do tap dancing, or just walk past a hall and heard the music, because we had to have a nose in and come and join us. And that's how it all happens. Yes. Do you have to be able to sing beforehand for your group, or do you do some lessons? Or
I mean, the basic principle of Come and Sing is that everybody can sing.
Yes,
and everybody brings something unique to the group. Actually, I'll tell. Once I mention this, I'll tell you something that is unique about this group, which is that one of our members also runs a regular session before the face-to-face sessions, and currently on Fridays, teaching us all Gaelic songs, Irish Gaelic and Scots Gaelic.
Oh, yes.
So that's the unique thing she brings. But when it comes down to being able to sing, we don't audition. We have people walking through the door going, "I'm tone deaf, me." No, they're not. It's incredibly rare that people are tone deaf. And even then, you can do things. You can sort of work on rhythm and things like that. We have a little warm up at the start of each session, and we do a little bit about sort of voice projection and breath control and things. We don't make it heavy, but it's just enough to get your voice moving a little bit more easily, and to learn little tricks like if you're going for a high note, people tend to reach their heads back, and it's the exact opposite of what you need to do. If you're going for a high note, tip your head forward, little things like that.
Yeah, very good. Well, we have to wind down now, May. Sorry to say, but I've enjoyed that very much. I hope the listeners have too. It's been very interesting. Thank you very much.
No problem. And all I can say is come and sing.
Come and sing, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for that, Jude. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Anne. Did you notice, by the way, everybody, how Johnny, who was waiting for his turn to tell us about his tips, did you notice how he was really going with the song, Don't Worry, Be Happy? Obviously, good exercise, Johnny. Now then, it's your turn to tell us, Johnny, please, if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak to us. I've asked you to unmute. That's great. Now, so what have you got for us this week then?
Well, that was very nice, Steve. That was indeed it's just the perfect sort of warm up for me, that was, except I was standing up. But
fine.
Yes, but in this case, I mean, I've tried standing up so that I could show you the exercise a little bit better than from sitting down. You can do it sitting down, but I think it looks better standing up. Today, again, is just another simple resistance exercise that I've pulled up, that I do all the time. You know, you can do it any time whatsoever, sitting down, watching TV, or whatever. And it's just, all you do is if you stand or sit down, hands at your waist, fists, make a fist, hand at your waist. Now have your fists pointing, your fist pointing forward. That's it. And now all you do is just take a deep breath through your nose, and as you push out through your mouth, push out your hand slowly, very slowly. You should, that's it. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. As far as you can till your hand's almost straight. That's it. And then you should have run out of breath by then. Relax, relax. Bring your hand in again to your hips. Take a deep breath and just push out as if somebody's trying to prevent you from pushing your hands out. Keep your elbow in, keep your elbow in. That's it. Slowly, slowly, slowly. You should feel the strain in your shoulders, your chest, and your back. That's it. And once your hand's straightened, relax. Steve, you're looking a bit shattered there. You took a sit down there. Now, I would recommend, depending on the individual, I would recommend, say, 5 times, and then relax. And then the next one is also a similar thing, but this time, hands at your waist. This time, instead of pushing forward, you push sideways. And all you do is just, again, slowly, somebody's trying to stop you from your hands going out, and it should take you some time to get out until your hand's straight, just about. And then you can relax, bring your hands back in. Again, you take another deep breath through your nose, and then push out and breathe out through your mouth. Once your hand is extended, relax. Relax. That's it, Steve. Those are 2 of those. Now, I would recommend, say, 5 each, forward and sideways. And then all you do is take a rest, a minute or 2, and then do another set, and then take a rest again, a couple of minutes. And then I would recommend, say, 3 times. But it's up to the individual. Start off slowly. Even if you only do 1 or 2 at a time, that is fine. These are exercises for life. You build up your power, you build up your strength over the weeks and months. So I'm not expecting you to enter for the Olympics soon. Yes. Now, there's one other thing that I was going to say, is that I don't know whether you can see that. It's just a little ball, just a little soft ball. It's almost like a child's soft ball.
You're on the radio, Johnny,
Yes,
so they can't
yes,
see it.
exactly.
But what he's got in his hand
I've got a child's softball in my hand. You know, you see children squeezing it and bouncing it about. But if you have one of those, maybe pinch your grandsons, and just as you're watching television, just squeeze it and release it. Squeeze it and release it. That, before you know it, actually, your hands, it tightens the skin on your hands and your wrists. Tightens everything there. It takes time. As I said, these are exercises for life, and it's going to take you months. But you should, after a few months, if you're doing it regularly, see the results, see it. That will encourage you to keep going, you see. And
that's marvellous, Johnny. Thank you so much for that.
That is that, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I remember what he said. You've actually got to keep at it.
Yes, it
So
is.
listeners, I hope
Exercise for life is an
I hope you've been
exercise for life.
taking account of what he's been saying and keep at it, as they say.
Right, Steve. I'll see you again in a
You will
fortnight.
in a fortnight's time. Yeah,
Thank
terrific.
you very
Thank you
much.
so much. Bye. Right. Anne and Eunice are back again now with the second part of the notices. So what have you got for us again, Anne and Eunice?
Right. Let's very much hope that we're not talking to someone who has the symptoms of COVID-19.
And what are they?
High temperature, continuous cough, and a change to your sense of taste and smell.
But if you do have those symptoms, you need to know where to get a test.
Yes, go to www.nhs.uk and see where your nearest centre is. Also ring 111.
You'll remember that the government has stopped funding free TV licenses for over 75s. They handed it over to the BBC to administer.
Yes, I remember. And the BBC decided they couldn't afford to pay for free licenses for everybody. So most of us will be paying for our TV licenses in future.
Right. So you need to check your license to see if it's still current. And you need to check whether you need to pay for it in the future.
The free scheme ends for most of us on the 31st of July. After that date, you'll be paying full price.
Unless, of course, you qualify for a free license, and you can find that out by going to the BBC website, which is www.tvlicensing.co.uk.
Do you know of somebody who's isolated and who doesn't have much contact with the other people?
Well, there is an organisation that might be able to help them. It's called Re-Engage. They've created a new service for older people called Call Companions. It's aimed to support people 75 plus, living alone with little or no contact with family or friends.
A volunteer call companion calls the same older person between 2 and 4 times a month at a mutually agreed time for an informal chat. Anyone can refer someone that they think would benefit from call companions.
So, if you know someone who might benefit from this service, please ring 0800 716 543 or go to www.reengage.org.uk/refer/forward. I hope you got that, it's a lot. But it's www.reengage.org.uk in reference. And I think that's our lot, is it?
Yes,
No,
that's
you-
it.
No, so that was the second part of the notices. Thank you so much, you two. That was
you're
great.
welcome.
Thank you. Now we've got my last piece of music, or not my last piece of music, of course, because Helena chose all these. Helena being the person who was supposed to be presenting this afternoon, but I'm afraid couldn't get in because of some Zoom block that was on for her, which we couldn't dismantle, I'm afraid. And her last piece of music is Il Divo with Somewhere.
There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet and open air, wait for us somewhere. There's a time for us, There's a place for us somewhere, a place for us. Time together with time to spare, time to look, time to
Wow, what a piece of music to end with. That was great, Helena, for choosing that one. Thanks a lot. Now it's just coming up to 5:02. We were supposed to have a 5-minute discussion now, but we will have a very quick whip round of people asking them how they're coping, shall we? That's probably the best way to do it. The first person on my screen is Hugh. So Hugh, what have you been able to do or not do?
Well, curiously enough, far more cautious than I was 8 to 10 weeks ago. But where we have been living, we've been very fortunate in that we can walk down to town without actually meeting anybody. The shops in town tended to be very empty. So we did all our own shopping for the last 8, 10 weeks. In the last week or so, the town has changed completely. It's much more crowded, shops are more crowded, and people are not keeping any kind of social distance at all.
Right.
So I find myself, so we're not now doing our own shopping, and we're not going down to town. And we're far more cautious than we were 8 to 10 weeks ago. And I think that's what we're going to do for about the next month or so, to see if there is going to be a second spike, and to see if people have got to deal with this in a much more sensible way than they currently seem to be doing.
Yes.
No trip to Tynemouth for us then.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
I'm waiting for a vaccine. What about you, Eunice? How are you coping?
I've always been a fairly busy person. I don't like to sit idle. So I've been crocheting beautiful coloured squares for children's blankets and this, that and the other. I also bake still a little bit. My daughter's been very kind to me by coming and looking after my food requirements. Apart from that, I've been on my own. I was out for the first time this week for 20 minutes. I got in the car and got out and come home again. But I also have a great grandchild who's naughty, come up all the way from Northampton way, who's staying in the house at the moment, but we took them out today because they were all here with us.
Right.
So he's just turned a year old.
Right.
And a strange coincidence, they called him William Henry. And I found in my things belong to my parents, one belonged to my mum, and there's a linen certificate of a Hull fisherman, and they called him William Henry Soppert Davison. And I thought, well, how strange.
Right.
That was sheer coincidence being called William Henry. So yeah.
I was going to say to Anne and Eddie, what about you two?
Right.
Well, we've been okay. We have found few extra places to walk. We have gone out a few times, but walking, and there's quite a bit of green spaces, green areas around here in Chapel House, which I didn't realise before. I mean, we've lived here 5 years now, and we haven't really walked around very much the estate, but now we're sort of explore a bit. And you don't see anybody, the odd person walking the dog or something, but you know, and people just stand to one side and across the road if they can. But we found some nice, what's called the wagon way, which goes just off. There's a green just across the road from us, and just go to the back of that, a wagon way that, and it's quite a nice stroll.
Right. And very quickly then, please, our guest, Neil, what about you?
Well, I live in Heaton, and I cycle to work each day, which has been, well, it's getting worse on the roads obviously now, but it was wonderful in those first few days in March. Actually, you know, about less traffic, getting out and about. Yesterday I was spent a few hours doing some painting with my middle son, which was lovely, and he in turn showed me how to do a bit of we said we're going to do some fly fishing in the future, so I've never done it before, so he's showing me how to cast a line, and so we spent some time doing that in a socially distant kind of a way, of course.
Terrific, thank you. And so we'll see you again on the 17th of July. And until then, it's our old friend, of course, Perry Como, who is singing us out. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to our guests, Neil and Jude. Thank you to the whole team. And we'll see you again, as I say, on the 17th. Bye.